I think that's a great question. I think I will start from the fact what is outside the organization and what's inside the organization. Inside the organization is a business enterprise, which has goals, which has got budgets, which has got expectations, got shareholders, got employees, it got customers. And it is on a journey path. Whereas talent which is coming from outside, before it comes into the organization, is exposed to a lot of media, a lot of social awareness, and has a very vast dreams and expectations of himself and what the organization can do for him. Which I think at the starting point has got very minimalistic meeting grounds. So the candidate joins the company and thinking that I'm going to make a career, I'm going to job, but I've got my own expectation. I could be in a startup, I could do freelance, I could do this, I could do that, and all for good reasons. I think the first point is, from a talent perspective and from the HR fraternity and the people, is how do I hold this candidate literally like a baby and make him explain the world of the company in the enterprise, how the company works, what the enterprise works, and tell him that he has come with these skills, but these skills he needs to learn. Now this is true for companies across all sizes. Some do it very well, some do it moderately, some just don't do it, and then there are, mismatch in the expectation. And I think there at the first stage, I think induction and orientation has to become a big leap. Now, as I said earlier, large organizations may have the wherewithal. But today, there are a lot of centers of excellence outside organizations who can do this. Because, and I speak specifically of India, over a period of say 30, 40, 50 years, a lot of good talent has got developed. And a lot of people also have their own expectations that we want to do this, we want to do that. And therefore, we have to find those relevant centers of excellence to build the capabilities and come and support the organization. Now, small and mid-sized and large organizations may have costs. But today, I think the beauty is, because of digitization and the platformization, all is available.
Right.
You need to find the right one and use it to your advantage.
Yeah. So, I think from a construct of talent management point of view, possibly there are three factors to look at, right? So one, organizations have to be reimagined like amoebas almost, that they can take the shape of what the consumer is demanding, right, in a way. So your traditional hierarchies and ways of designing the organization, it has to, which means that also needs to be then embedded into career management systems. And I think the fundamental starting point in a way is to reimagine the organizational design and therefore the career management system for all kinds of talent at all different levels. And the second, I think, is that traditionally most consumer companies have had a view of what kind of talent will fill in, MBAs from this kind of college or etc kind of thing. I think those notions have to go away.
Absolutely.
Because the traditional model of education fitting into the new consumer world, I am not sure how relevant it is. So focus on skills which the person brings rather than focusing on education or degrees in general, and that's a very fundamental shift which companies in talent management need to make. And thirdly, I think, which is a very critical path, is that, and Vipul, you said it in a different way, consistently assess, train, develop, get back to what else is required, again assess, again train, again develop, coach them, and take them through that path as they go through their career journey. And the career journey itself has to be imagined as a, almost like a mosaic rather than a linear path. So I think fundamentally, if you can build those into the talent management system, that's what's going to help companies going into the future.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. And I think, as very rightly said, it's a continuous journey. From my experience, I can definitely say that there were so many programs I would have attended in all organizations. At that point in time, I was not very sure whether this was relevant to me or not relevant to me. But when I sit back after 10 years and 15 years, I think that those skills got subtly developed in their career journey. Maybe sometimes they were little ahead, sometimes there was a catch up, but I think, as you rightly said, Bimal, it's a journey. And I think organizations have to think that once a person comes, what is going to be the journey of his improvement in talent and what ecosystem we need to create for him to keep learning on the go.
Yeah. Also, there are other issues in talent. So, for example, if I look at uh, equitable workplace with let's say, a high degree of inclusion, and think about a young mother, for example, who's wanting to build a career, has great skills. So, how do you build an ecosystem to encourage that person? How do you sort of even do small things like meeting her aspirations, for example, right? See, those are practical challenges which organizations are struggling with. A lot of women, for example, go out of the workforce. Very bright women go out of the workforce because
True.
of other social issues and personal and family issues. So how do you bring them back? How do you nurture them, and so on and so forth? I think we are losing out a chunk of the talent because of let's say, not paying enough attention to the inclusion issues. Secondly, being maybe a little bit too sticky about educational pedigree, which I talked about earlier, and saying that only these kind of people will fit in, kind of a thing. And thirdly, being a little perhaps extra mindful, if I may call it that, in trying to find everything in everybody. The reality is that different people will bring different
Absolutely.
skills, and as long as you can get complementary skills which can help you build talent, not everybody needs to be in the same mold. A and B and C will have different strengths, and I think it's up to the organization and the organizational design as to how do you actually leverage those strengths. So I think some of these can sometimes become mental bottlenecks, and therefore process bottlenecks for organizations, as they are assessing and developing talent on an ongoing basis.
Absolutely true. And I think just to add to your point, these days people are not looking at only tier 1 institutes. People are looking for the people with right skills, and they may be in tier 2 towns, they may be in tier 3 towns, because the digitization has brought so much awareness, and knowledge is no longer, you can say, only A to available. It's available to anybody. It's available. And therefore, when we get such a diverse crowd in the company, I think how do we hone them up into a, not saying into a watertight compartment, but in a dimension in where the enterprise needs to work. Now the dimensions will keep changing as the organization goals, consumers, channel will change. But I think the learning and training development organization has to be very close to the business and understand what the business is going through, and sometimes be proactive to say, I think we will need this on the table.
All right. I think, if I go back to another point we were discussing earlier, because the world is changing very quickly, I think important for every level of a leader, or whatever you would broadly call talent, is to be extremely self-awareness. Where do they fit into the scheme of things? Whether it's a job, a career, a company, and in the larger world. I think companies have done a fairly good job, I think, of building leadership from a self-awareness perspective.
Very true.
But I think that a lot more needs to be done, and maybe more consistently and more regularly, just because of the sheer level of changes which are happening, in the world. That's one. The second one, which I think, we talked about it earlier about the whole digital AI, sphere. The nature of sales itself will change. Can you, for example, I may have a product sitting in geography A, but I am able to sell 5,000 miles away to a consumer, as long as I can get them to understand the product, the benefit and the features of the product, and I have a channel to be able to service them and manage that. And there are companies which are starting to do that in a very, very, very nice way. So I think that other mechanism of learning the basic sales skills itself,
absolutely,
is something I think in the digital world has to undergo a fundamental shift.
Absolutely right, Bimal. And I think the traditional concept of geography has changed. A shopkeeper may be sitting in one, because of digitization, he's able to sell his product within 30, 40, 50 kilometers, even 200 kilometers. The traditional wholesale market, which they thought would die, have revived themselves because of the shipping company, the digitization, WhatsApp for business,
Correct.
e-commerce. So I think one is these channels changing, and how is internally people becoming aware and using the digital tools to be able to leverage the business.
Yeah. I think one other example, I came across a very modern warehouse, and this is almost 95% robotics with one person managing a huge warehouse with I don't know how many million square feet or whatever it is, and vertical stacking largely. So you could almost think of it as a vertical warehouse, with robotics, right? Now, if you think of it as a concept and look at the whole carrying a consumer product from one place to the other, storing it and then carrying, and think of what is happening in that space, it fundamentally changes the whole space of logistics in a very different way. And therefore, how the consumer demand is fulfilled. And of course, you can see today a lot of these companies will do delivery in 10 minutes and 5 minutes and so on and so forth. Now, I think in the whole space of consumer fulfillment, these are elements which I think sales and marketing people and organizations need to really understand that these will further fuel consumer demand of a very different kind.
Absolutely.